right, so I am Kanisha Woodhouse, and I am your host for this video. And this is part 2 to what I was talking about, signs of rejection. I'm not sure how many more parts it's going to have, but I am coming from the book Unshakable. Again, this book is by John Eckhart, and it's available on Amazon, eBay, and it's a really good book with lots of information in it. And as I mentioned the other day, the author of this book has been in this ministry for over 30 years. He's been ministering deliverance over 30 years. And I chose this subject because we see this happening a lot in people, and sometimes people can't put a name with the actions of so we're seeing it, but not. So I wanted to kind of expose the enemy. Want to kind of expose the enemy that hinders our lives by the spirit and through the spirit of rejection. So the other day I talked about started off talking about rejection and like some of the personalities of rejection. So today we're going to talk about how rejection enters. So the author starts with saying how rejection begins at a young age. As a matter of fact, it can even enter into a baby, unborn baby. If a mother rejects the baby at the time of conception or during the pregnancy, during her pregnancy. So it says here it can start in the womb. It's called prenatal rejection, and it's very common to occur in unplanned, accidental pregnancies, traumatic or stressful labor, attempted abortion, through pregnancy problems, an unwanted child. You see that a lot. You get times where people don't plan for pregnancy, but it happens. I want to say it just happens, but it happens, and that child can be born with that spirit of rejection or that sense of rejection. Illegitimacy. You can also, rejection also enters from the father, mother, or both. And it can happen through unconsensual sexual behavior, aggressive sexual behavior. And I think we know where we're going with that, because some platforms you'll see this video are very word sensitive. So sex against a person's will, if I could say that. So anyway, another form of a way of rejection coming in is if you have parents that say they're looking for or they're wanting to have a girl but instead have a boy. And they kind of through just because they have, what they didn't want, that child can experience rejection. You put your and this is kind of funny, crazy, but when you maybe have a boy and you want a girl, sometimes that boy will have a girl's name. Sometimes, the mama or whoever address the boy in clothes that's not specifically for a boy or vice versa. It can be rejected. The sex of the gender of the baby can be rejected or abandoned. And sometimes this is common with certain cultures. And then if like I've seen this on Touched by an Angel before, this episode where there was a lady and her father wanted her to be a boy so bad, and she tried very aggressively to please him. So she did all boy sports. She wore, she was a tomboy, she wasn't very girly, all to try to get validation from her father, try to, gain acceptance from her father. They wear they certain clothes. She was wearing certain clothes. Like, they wasn't really girly. She didn't really have desire really girl things to dress like a woman. She did sports that were guy sports. Would you consider to be guy sports? So also a person can be rejected by his or her family. This kind of rejection can include abandonment by one or both parents, whether intentional or perceived, emotional or physical abuse from authority figures, adopted children, children with birth defects, birth order, middle child syndrome is a common is common. Rejection is common, in other words, in children that are the middle children. And most of the time we write it off to be as middle child syndrome, or you'll hear it called middle child syndrome. And they can be vulnerable if they feel the parents favor the elder or younger children. So you get or favoritism among the children. So in other words, that will look like, say you have 3 children. The mother loves the oldest because they're the oldest, and they love the youngest. Not that they don't love the middle one, but that middle one kind of has a hard time of where they fit. You know what I mean? Where they fit, because that person or the family loves that oldest child, and then they love the baby because the baby is the baby. That's the last one. So, so you kind of got to be careful with that, parents. Also, favoritism among children, death of a parent, parental neglect, overbearing parents, or a perfectionist parent. Societal rejection includes rejection from peers due to awkward features, racial prejudices, social and economic differences, bullying, and mistreatment from authority figures, teachers, or coaches. And I'm trying to think of an example of societal rejection from like your peers, with with awkwardness. Yeah. Okay. So maybe you haven't experienced, I'm talking about like in adolescent children age now, and kind of in elementary or something like that, and you know maybe have children that's a tall, and they're growing, and they've grown differently, they may be taller or whatnot, and then you have like a kid maybe that's that hasn't started a growth spurt yet, and maybe they're shorter than the rest. Okay, they can be rejected because of that. They could be, because their appearance is different from other people. So you got that as an example. That's just an example. So causes of rejection at the beginning of life could be being born with a gender opposite what the parents wanted, being born with a deformity or physical disability. um we're talking about ways rejection enter. Constant criticism by parents, siblings, or authority. When you constantly criticize, you do not feel accepted. Accepted. Your ideas, your feelings, your person, because people criticize. You're being criticized by whomever, parents, siblings, or authority figures. Unjust discipline that can make rejection come in, particularly if another family member appears to be favored. Being called names that emphasize embarrassing personal features. A sick or incapacitated brother or sister receiving prolonged medical care and attention. Father showing weakness, apathy, or passivity in their authority or responsibility roles. Okay. Subjection to sexual molestation or incest. A father becoming sexually aggressive to his wife in the presence of his children. Spoiling or pampering a child. Children who belong to a racial minority will usually feel rejected by the majority amongst whom they live and play. Speech difficulties such as stuttering, stammering, lisping, or an inability to pronounce certain consonants or words. And you see that a lot of times where if a young person, child, or whoever stutters, other kids will kind of, you know and it's rejection. They'll reject that person. They'll treat them differently because they stutter, or you know what I'm saying, because the other kids stutter. I've seen that happen. I remember using to watch or liking. I like the Parkers still to this day, and I remember this one particular episode where Stanley Ogilvy was telling his story about, he was remembering back when he was a child, and the kids would call him Stuttering Stanley, Stuttering Stanley. I mean, the show was funny, but in real life, um, that does happen to people. They were bullying him and calling him names, Stuttering Stanley stuff. Now you don't want to be called that. You don't want to be considered that. You show up on the scene, and people, you start talking, and people just automatically start to laugh and point at you and say, Stuttering Susan, Stuttering Susan. I'm sorry if your name's Susan, but I don't mean no harm. I'm just using that as an example. But nobody wants to be laughed at or teased about something that they may feel already gives them inadequacy or feelings of inadequacy all by itself, and then somebody else come along and play on that inadequacy. No, that don't make you, you won't feel accepted. You don't feel wanted. And remember, that's what rejection is, not feeling wanted or accepted, and it causes trauma. That causes trauma. So, unhappy parents who argue, fight, won't talk to each other, or only speak to their children, the children will feel guilty and responsible. Another way that rejection enters at the beginning of life is parental cruelty. Alcoholism in one or both parents, failure to be forgiven or trusted by parents. Yeah, I can see where that's possible. Parents like give the cold shoulder to the children, won't talk to them or whatever because of whatever reasons. I can see how that can be. bribes or threats to be academically successful, being expelled from school or rejected by a peer group, being embarrassed over the parents' religious beliefs, a father showing more attention to his daughter's girlfriends than he does to his own daughter, destruction of the family home by fire or some natural disaster, a family member convicted of a serious crime, a sudden drop in the family standard of living caused by the unemployment, redundancy, or bankruptcy of the breadwinner. Parents who have ample financial resources but shows meanness towards their children, causing them to feel ashamed before their playmates. Children constantly being left to their own resources, either because of the working hours of the parents or disinterest in their children's welfare. Parents showing no active interest in the progress of their children's schoolwork, sports, activities, or leisure time pursuits. Yeah, I can kind of see that too, because you see that sometimes in young adults where they feel like their parents don't love them because they don't participate in nothing they have going on. Say like the kid or the young adult have different things going on and they're winning awards, but the parents don't ever come see them get the awards, or they may be busy in school or even church functions, social functions, and the parent don't support that with their attendance, maybe, and they, you've seen it, that is a open door for rejection, for a spirit of rejection to come in. Okay, and I'm gonna go through causes of rejection later in life. Can be being deserted or divorced by a mate, experience the death of or unfaithfulness of a marriage partner, mental or physical cruelty caused by a husband or wife, shame caused by a court conviction of a criminal offense, having to serve a prison term, inability to find any long-time relief for mental, emotional, or physical problems after having exhausted all forms of counseling or professional services, incompatible religious ideologies in marriage causing one partner to be forced to comply with the other's wishes, a lowering of lifestyle standards caused by drug or alcohol addictions of a marriage partner, rejection in love or a broken engagement, becoming bedridden or crippled as a result of disease or an accident, becoming subject to pressures beyond one's ability to control, being fired from a place of employment for incompetency or being unable to find employment over a long period of time, being totally let down by people who have been trusted and whose advice had been totally relied upon, financial embarrassment caused by the failure of investment taken on by the advice of a close friend, or being financially cheated by unscrupulous operators. So those are forms of ways rejection, causes of rejection to be able to enter later in life. And so I'm going to do one of these. And this next session, and then I'm going to stop. And I'll probably recap it when I go into the next video. And this one is called, excuse me, demonic spirits associated with rejection. So the author starts with, rejection is not only a demon, but it also is a personality. So when you have the spirit of rejection on you, I think I mentioned in the first video, it's personality that goes with that, because that spirit is very influential in your life. It has a hold on you, so it influences you to think and behave in a certain way that you would normally behave. So it says the rejection personality is comprised of different spirits that join rejection and strengthen rejection. And he goes on to say demons are like gangs. It says demons are drawn to emotional pain and will come into a person suffering from rejection. So you got rejection and you have the spirit of rejection. So the trauma of being rejected opens the door for the spirit of rejection. And when the spirit of rejection enters, it doesn't just come by itself. It has other demonic spirits that comes in as a result of the rejection. Include, first we gonna deal with lust. Okay, so here lust is described as a demonic substitute for true love. Rejected people will seek out relationships and often get involved in sexual immorality at a young age. And this stems from being rejected. The spirit of harlotry can manifest at a young age and can be seen in young women who dress provocatively. So you'll see promiscuity. You'll see promiscuity, and you gotta check the root that's behind the how did I just say that word? Promiscuity. Well, you hear what I'm saying. Oh my goodness. And can be seen in young women who dress provocatively. Sexual impurity has become rampant in our society. Sexual lust spirits include adultery, fornication, whoredom, harlotry, seduction, sexual impurity, perversion, homosexuality, lesbianism, masturbation, pornography, incest, fantasy, lust, sodomy, and uncleanness. Okay. So it says lust is not only sexual, but can also manifest in materialism, overindulgence, whether it's food addictions, gluttony, bulimia, and anorexia, and extreme dieting, drug and alcohol addictions, clothing, and so on. So sometimes you see people doing a lot of shopping or that kind of thing, and they're trying to fix something that's going on deep within them, because lust is in the demonic grouping with the spirit of rejection. So you see people acting out that personality of the lust, whether it be sexual or whether it be by the way of eating addictions, And remember I talked about the pain and stuff. So you're trying to make the pain of a thing go away. That's why it talks about the food addictions, the overindulgence. You can control those things or seemingly control those things. people are shop, and said because it talks about manifest in materialism, the overindulgence of. So people do a lot of shopping to, make them feel better, to maybe get what's nice, popular, so people can comment, to make them feel accepted or loved or wanted, because people, compliments help people. It encourages people. So with these different spirits, you'll have the need to, want to be where you're accepted. So you're gonna try to fit in. You're gonna try to do, that personality manifests from the spirit of rebellion. I mean rebellion, excuse me, rejection. Sorry about that. But don't get me wrong, you can want to shop and have nice things or be attracted to this and that and not have that spirit of rejection or lust. But lust does go with, is in the gang. They're in a gang together, rejection and lust. And I'm going to start right there because that's a lot to chew on right there. Rejection, going back to relationships, because remember, it's lust is a demonic substitute for true love. So you'll be in wrong relationships just to be accepted, just to, and you may have to compromise your real self or who you are just to, uh just to be accepted. That's the best way I can put it. Just to be wanted, just to feel needed. Because when you're rejected or have that spirit, remember that spirit is telling you you're not wanted, you're not worthy, you're not lovable, you're not this or you're not that. People don't like you for you. You got to do this or you got to do that. You got to buy this or you got to buy that. So that spirit is very dangerous, and it can cause you to be broke. to I don't see where he says it here, but I can see where poverty can be a part of that too. Because you try to keep up with the Joneses, you doing stuff you can't afford, so you can look like, just so that people can say something to you, or like, oh, you got it going on, girl, or you got it going on, man, or whatever have you. You ain't paying your rent because you got to go have the latest name brand this or name brand that, shoes, cars, whatever. And there ain't nothing wrong with having none of that stuff. That ain't what I'm saying. But I'm saying it's a problem. The spirit of rejection causes, personalities that can have you out there bad. So anyway, that concludes the video for today. I didn't want to be on here too long today, but that concludes this video. Again, this section out of the book Unshakable, very interesting. That's why I'm talking about it. I love this book. It's such an eye-opener. And it's called Unshakable by John Eckhart. You can get the book. Get the book. Get the book. Because I'm not going to read the whole book. I'm just commentating on things that stood out to me. Things that stood out to me. So I know I want to deal with, out of this book, the spirit of rebellion, and then I want to deal with double-mindedness. I know I wanted to say that because in double-mindedness, you'll find out a lot of characteristics you may not have knew that was double-minded. I know I did. So anyway, again, I'm Kanisha, and I'm your host of this video. Thank you, and be blessed. See you next time.